So, as usual, everything is fine. Totally fine. But it is looking like, for the next little while anyway, all of us are gonna have to be spending a little more time being totally fine alone inside than usual. Some of us who are also totally fine may even end up stuck in bed, getting finer. Even at the best of times, which is now, being stuck in one place for a while can totally suck. But it doesn't have to. Not when you have anime. And while given the option, I tend to go for shorter, more self-contained series, at times like this, fine times, it can be nice to immerse yourself in one of the longer, more involved storylines the movement has to offer. You know, the big scary ones. But which of those behemoth series is most worth your time? Well, that kind of depends on how much time you have as well as what you're into. If you're going to be working or studying from home and watching anime in your off hours, you might want something on the shorter end of way too long. Whereas if you've got time off for whatever reason and you're settling into bed for a multi-day marathon sesh, you'll be looking for something a little more eternal. I've watched my share of both kinds of series in my career as an otaku, and today, in order to help you decide which is the right fit for your totally fine at-home alone time, I'm going to talk a bit about some of my personal favorites. Now, there are some long anime which I haven't properly gotten around to yet, but which I know are great, like Gintama, Hunter x Hunter, and The Legend of the Galactic Heroes, so even though I probably would recommend those, they won't be on here. Neither will the really obvious stuff like Naruto, My Hero Academia, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because I feel like if you've been watching anime in the last few years or you're a fan of this channel, you definitely already know if those are for you or not. The minimum length requirement for shows on this list is going to be 2 full seasons, or 50 plus episodes, which is long enough to keep you busy for at least a couple days of binging, but just short enough that I get to talk about Kaiji Ultimate Survivor again. Kaiji Ultimate Survivor is a dark, twisted thriller about a poor, drunken layabout named Kaiji, whose sad, meaningless life is forever changed when a loan shark comes knocking at his door. It appears Kaiji's old co-worker has skipped town whilst owing a lot of money to some not very nice people, and as his guarantor, our pointy-faced protagonist is now sidled with paying off his impossible debt. So when the loan shark offers Kaiji a once-in-a-lifetime chance to clear the slate in a single night, he has little choice but to accept. Kaiji is then taken to an opulent cruise ship, where he and other hapless debtors are forced to gamble in a deceptively simple game of card-based rock, paper, scissors, where some will erase their debts, others will strike it rich, and the remaining players will be shipped off to a life of horrible, indentured servitude. The dire stakes and unique quirks of restricted rock, paper, scissors turn the mindless pastime into a complex game of intrigue and psychological warfare. And if he wants to survive, Kaiji needs to learn quickly how to read and manipulate others, lest he fall prey to such tactics himself. It's a situation that brings out the absolute worst in people, and that's very much by design. Restricted rock, paper, scissors is just the first of many cruel death games of chance concocted by the mysterious and powerful Tei Financial Group to sate the lust of its sadistic billionaire chairman, Hyodo Kazutaka. And as Kaiji attempts to escape from the bottomless pit of debt and despair he's been dropped into, he'll have to make many more life or death gambles to the chairman's wicked delight. Kaiji is a bit of a slow burner, but once it gets going, it becomes one of the most intense and unpredictable viewing experiences anime has to offer. Over the course of its 52-episode run, you'll meet a wide array of desperate sad sacks and greedy bastards, and become intimately familiar with the inner workings of their minds as Kaiji works to defeat them. And you'll bite your nails right down to the quick as he teeters on the razor-thin line between glorious victory and devastating defeat. On that note, make sure to thoroughly wash your hands under warm water for 30 plus seconds, paying close attention to your nails before consuming Kaiji, and also less important sustenance like food. Now, if you're in the mood for mind games and a story about an initially meek hero triumphing over long odds, but for some reason you don't feel like taking a dive into the depths of human depravity right now, I highly recommend checking out Baby Steps instead, which is hands down my favorite sports anime that premiered on April 6, 2014. Unfortunately, Baby Steps was overshadowed somewhat by my second favorite April 6, 2014 sports anime, Haikyuu, which is another very good long anime to get into, especially as it's closing in on its last few arcs, but I'll have more to say about that in a video soon. As of now, due to general lack of interest and an apparently messy licensing situation, Baby Steps isn't available on any legal English language anime platform, but believe me when I say it's worth the hassle of tracking down a torrent. Baby Steps follows honor student Eiichiro Maruo, nicknamed A-chan on account of his strong grades, as he takes up tennis to improve his health and ends up falling in love with the sport and his gorgeous and talented tennis senpai stroke classmate Natsu Takasaki. Eiichiro is known at school for his meticulous notes, but he only works so hard because he feels like it's what he should do, not because he actually loves academics. Natsu, in contrast, is fully committed to her dream of becoming a tennis pro, and that passion intrigues A-chan until he becomes infected with it himself. A-chan faces a steep climb against young players like Natsu who've been training their whole lives, but that's where his diligence pays dividends. Thanks to his sharp eyes and memory, A-chan is able to make detailed notes and diagrams between sets, charting the ball's course throughout each game and set until he has enough information to uncover patterns and weaknesses in his opponent's playstyles, which is where the psychological component of the show comes into play. Matches in this series tend to be long and involved, and as they go on, we come to know A-chan's rivals just as well as we get to know our geeky hero. Like all the best sports anime, Baby Steps gives you good reason to cheer for both players in pretty much every match, and the series is great at setting the stakes just high enough that every match matters, without them being so high that A-chan losing would instantly end the story. This makes matches feel tense and unpredictable, and sets the stage for some of the hypest moments in anime, period. This is one of the only shows that's ever made me pop up off the couch to shout at my TV in pure exhilaration, and it manages to deliver those hype payloads while simultaneously crafting one of the most believable and heartwarming romantic subplots in the anime business. A-chan and Natsu have phenomenal chemistry, and they push each other to be both better people and better players, so their romance resonates without detracting from all the sports ball fun. If you like sports anime or just shonen anime in general, this is seriously one of the absolute best ones out there. Baby Steps is similar in tone and style to another great long anime I've talked about a lot before, Space Brothers, and if you enjoy down-to-earth dramas about lovable people working hard to achieve lofty dreams, I'd highly recommend adding all 99 episodes of that to your marathon slate as well. I did recently gush about Space Brothers in my favorite anime of the decade video though, so to avoid repeating myself, I'll just point you to that video if you want to hear more. On that note, I've also already talked at length about why everyone who's even remotely interested in anime needs to watch Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and that still holds true here. I don't think there's an anime in existence that offers a better narrative payoff relative to the time investment it requires than Bones' 64-episode adaptation of Hiromu Arakawa's fantasy epic, except perhaps Avatar: The Last Airbender, which clocks in at 61. And while both series almost certainly qualify as being too obvious to be worth recommending, if you haven't seen either of them yet, you really do need to. I made a whole video explaining why FMA is a must-watch if you need convincing, and I'm planning to do the same for Avatar soon enough. But the main reason I'm bringing both of them up is to tell those of you who have seen them that you should check out Maji: The Labyrinth of Magic as well. With two 25-episode seasons that cut off about halfway through the manga they're based on, Maji doesn't feel nearly as complete as either of those series, but it is nearly as good. And it comes the closest out of perhaps any other shonen fantasy series I've seen to striking that perfect balance of comedy, high adventure, and dark, dramatic storytelling. The series is set in a fantasy world heavily inspired by the Arabian Nights, where massive structures called dungeons dot the desert landscape, testing the mettle of brave adventurers and granting their few lucky survivors control over one of the 72 legendary genies of Solomon. All of this is part of a profoundly convoluted process for selecting the one rightful king of the world, and the particular king candidate we follow throughout the series is a poor but ambitious teenager named Alibaba Saluja. Alibaba acquires his first genie, Aman, with the help of a capricious, way too horny young magician named Aladdin, who, as it turns out, is one of the titular Magi that Look, there's a lot of lore, mythos, and world building in this series, and if I were to explain it all, not only would we be here for a couple hours, but I'd be spoiling the joy of discovery that makes Maji so engaging. There is a vast and exciting world waiting for you in this anime, and you get to journey through it with an ever-shifting cast of interesting, sympathetic characters. Each of those characters has their own ideals and ambitions, and as you'd expect from a shonen battle anime, those are often expressed through pitched magic combat, which is one of the areas where this show really shines. Each genie lives inside a metal vessel of some kind, be it the standard lamp, a piece of jewelry, or some sort of weapon, and the king candidates are able to call forth their magic through those vessels at will. Initially, this means that everyone fights with badass magic swords and shit, and those fights are pretty ballin'. The Sakuga and especially the effects animation are on point, but as the series progresses, it starts working in magic and various other flavors of transformation to create an array of thrilling and increasingly inventive action scenes. Maji provides a distinct flavor of high fantasy action that you can't really find anywhere else, and if you like what the anime has on offer, the manga is beautiful and makes for a solid follow-up. The series I've mentioned thus far should keep you busy for a few days each, or longer if you spread them out, but if you've got a real abundance of time to kill, you might be looking for something a little stronger. If you're in the mood for an anime that'll eat up an entire week of your life or more, these next few 100+ episode series should fit the bill nicely. First up, very briefly, if you're looking to watch a show with the whole family, I highly recommend checking out Pokemon Sun and Moon. It basically turns the Pokemon anime into a slice-of-life comedy, with each episode being focused on a different adorable Mon, and the revamped art style gives it some of the most fluid and gorgeous Sakuga shots you'll see in any modern show. Pokemon Sun and Moon is a consistently delightful piece of all-ages entertainment. I made a whole video explaining why it's so great too, but that got taken down like harder than anything else I've ever made, so I can't link you to it if you want to hear more, and also I won't be saying much more because I want this video to stay up. It's Pokemon, it's real good, and if you like Pokemon, you should watch it. It'll make you happy. Moving on, I spend a lot of my time talking about modern shonen anime, which I by and large adore. I'm really happy that kids these days have such great new shows to grow up on, but it saddens me a little to see them overshadowing the greats of old. Not every 90s manga adaptation still holds up today, but Yu Hakusho absolutely does. And if you haven't seen it yet, you owe it to yourself to give it a watch. The series follows Yusuke Urameshi, a good-for-nothing 14-year-old punk who spends most of his time getting in fights and making trouble for everyone around him, but ends up giving his own life to save a kid from a speeding car. In the afterlife, Yusuke finally comes to understand just how much he really meant to the people around him, even the ones he thought hated him the most, and he gains the motivation to better himself just a wee bit too late for it to matter. Or that would be the case, except that his act of unexpected heroism threw the afterlife for something of a loop, and not knowing whether to send the boy to heaven or hell, upper management decides to give him a new lease on life, literally. But there's a catch. Yusuke has to earn his second chance by working as a spirit detective, using his newly awakened spiritual powers, including a ray gun that shoots Reiki energy from his fingertips, which is both a great pun and also one of the coolest weapons in shonen anime, to stop supernatural criminals in the human world. In short order, Yusuke forms a whole demon-hunting brigade consisting of 2 reformed crooks from his first case, edgy boy Hiei and handsome Bishi Kurama, and best boy Kuwabara, a street punk as loyal and lovable as he is incredibly stupid. The boys go on a bunch of different adventures together, getting into awesome creative fights, and forging some real deep bonds of friendship along the way. Yu Hakusho, if you don't know, was written by Hunter x Hunter scribe Yoshihiro Togashi, and while it's not quite as refined as his ongoing magnum opus, which I've only read up to the end of the exam arc, so I don't even know how good that gets, it still stands on its own strengths. It has a solid power system that allows for a wide range of creative abilities, and Togashi has a real knack for applying those abilities to challenge his heroes in interesting ways. Those heroes grow a lot, both as people and fighters, over the course of the series, and it balances big fun fights deftly against serious, emotionally charged drama. Yu Hakusho raised the bar for storytelling in 90s shonen battle manga, and one arc of the series in particular, the Dark Tournament, still stands over 2 decades later as the standard against which all other tournament arcs must be judged. The series still looks pretty damn good, especially remastered in HD, and it's one of the rare long-form shonen adaptations of the era that's basically devoid of filler. Most of the changes it made to the manga are strict improvements, actually, so every bit of its 112-episode run is fully worth watching. I wish I could say the same for all 151 episodes of Ranma half, but its quality takes a bit of a nosedive in seasons 4 and 5. It does pick back up in the final 2 seasons, though, and with the movies and OVAs on top of that, it still offers well over 100 episodes worth of fun and laughter. Ranma, if you're not familiar, is an action comedy series from Inuyasha creator and shonen manga legend Rumiko Takahashi, which is notable for, among other things, inventing the concept of harem anime. Takahashi had previously written several dramas and comedies that were driven by tense love triangles, and clearly had a lot of fun with that dynamic. So when it came time to write her Dragon Ball adjacent martial arts manga, she thought, hey, what if I did that, but like, with the whole cast? Thanks to the harsh training of his objectively terrible father Genma, our titular hero, Ranma Saotome, is a master of anything-goes martial arts at just 16 years old. After a long and arduous training trip through the mountains of China, Genma drags his son back to Japan in order to set the boy up in an arranged marriage to one of the daughters of his old training partner, Son Tendo. When motherly Kasumi and greedy Nabiki both turn the offer down, it falls to the tomboy of the family, Akane Tendo, to take Ranma's hand. They are both passionate martial artists, so it's kind of a perfect pairing, except for the minor issue that Akane hates men. All of them. With a burning passion. But that's okay, because she's not Ranma's first fiancé, and she definitely won't be his last. Genma already promised his son's hand to the daughter of an okonomiyaki chef a few years back, in exchange for one meal, because he sucks. And there's also a Chinese Amazon named Shampoo coming to kill Ranma for sullying her honor in a fight, who decides to marry him afterward when she discovers that he's not a girl. Oh, right, I forgot to mention this, but after falling into a cursed hot spring in China on account of his dipshit dad, Ranma now turns into a beautiful young girl whenever he's splashed with cold water, only reverting to his male form when he takes a warm soak. Also, his dad's half panda now, but that doesn't really change much. Ranma being a girl, on the other hand, changes a lot, because it opens his harem up to all the boys in the show as well, half of whom also want to bang him, including his womanizing, self-proclaimed rival for Akane's affections, high school kendo star and all-around doofus Tatewaki Kuno, who never quite gets that the pigtailed girl whose picture he keeps tucked in his hakama next to Akane's because he's terrible is the same person as Ranma, no matter how many times he sees him transform right in front of his stupid fucking face. Kuno's sister, Kodachi, who is crazy, also has a crush on Ranma, boy Ranma, and given that both of these idiot stalkers are hella rich, they predictably cause a lot of problems. Most of the show's plot, actually, is driven by horny idiots causing problems. It's pretty much the sole reason that any of the fights in the series even happen. And because there are so many different idiots, some recurring, some one-offs, all of whom are both horny and stupid in wildly different ways, that all adds up to create a comedy formula that basically never gets old. No matter how hard all of the harem anime that have followed in Ranma's footsteps have tried to make it age. It is a testament to Rumiko Takahashi's incredible comedic chops that even today, Ranma still stands as one of the best and biggest entries in the genre it helped create. If none of that is enough to sate your ravenous hunger for bingeable content, I do have one more show to recommend. Clocking in at an absolutely whopping 972 episodes plus 24 movies, Case Closed follows a genius teenage detective named Jimmy Kudo who is ambushed and drugged by a mysterious organization in the middle of a case and wakes up in the body of a 6-year-old boy. Assuming the alias Conan Edogawa, named for two of the greatest mystery writers of all time, Jimmy goes to live live undercover with his not-quite-girlfriend Rachel Moore and her father Richard, a gruff, washed-up detective who's about to get credit for solving a lot of crimes he didn't actually have much to do with. Okay, look, I know it's Detective Conan, Shinichi, Ran, and Kogoro, but I got into this show watching the dub as a teenager, and in my brain, regardless of what the subtitles or characters say now, Case Closed will forever be the tale of Jimmy, Rachel, and Richard's capers in Lost Japangelis. Between this and the Phoenix Wright series, vaguely localized Not Tokyo is like my single favorite setting for all mystery stories, and I will apologize for using the dub names when this show actually ends. So, never. On that note, if you're looking for a story with a strong sense of forward momentum, or any at all, Case Closed is not the anime for you. The show can go for literally years without a peep from its central villains, and almost 1,000 episodes in, Rachel still hasn't caught on that Conan is Jimmy, despite having almost figured it out more than a dozen separate times. The show's characters are mostly static archetypes, and its overarching plot is basically non-existent. To its credit, Case Closed does a very good job of making those static characters consistently entertaining and building good chemistry between them, but what it really does well, arguably better than anything else in its field, is crafting complex, logically sound mysteries with novel solutions that can always be deduced through the clues provided to the audience. Some contained to single episodes, others spread out across longer arcs. At its core, every Case Closed story is a puzzle, and the series has persisted for longer than any other shonen thing in existence because somehow pretty much every one of those puzzles is both interesting to watch passively and fun to solve. Gosho Aoyama and his editors have essentially perfected the whodunit formula, and the upside of the show's almost entirely static plot is that so long as you've seen the first episode, you can kind of jump into any Case Closed episode and enjoy whatever mystery is on offer. It is the perfect show to watch when you don't know what to watch. Dramatic enough to grip you for a longer viewing session with characters who are easy to get attached to, but never demanding more than a few episodes of your time per case. If this period of total fineness does end up going on forever, this is one of the few anime that will actually keep you entertained through the whole thing. Now, there is one other shonen series that can do that for you, though it demands a little bit more of your time for its stories, which is why I'd like to cap this video off by giving you all a friendly reminder that even though it's kind of the perfect time for it, you should never, ever read One Piece. It's just way too good. Remember how I put out a video like 2 weeks ago talking about East Blue? I'm at the end of Skypiea already. That's like 200 chapters, and I'm already thinking of going back and rereading all of Baroque works for a video. Also, I just bought physical copies of the manga so I can see the art better. Someone stop me, please! The moral of this story is stay away from One Piece. Also, other people, and wash your hands. Don't touch your face. That's all the long anime I've got for you guys today, but I'm sure you've all got your own Titanic binges to recommend, so drop those down in the comments. And while I've still got you here, if you need further convincing to stay away from One Piece, go check out my breakdown of the character designs in East Blue. I'm Geoff Thew, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.